Okay, so today we're going to look at gradebook, and what we'll do is we'll break it up into two 1-hour segments. The first hour, we will explore how to build a basic gradebook, very simplified basic gradebook in Moodle itself. So if you've never used Moodle and you've never used Moodle Gradebook, this will hopefully be very helpful for you. A very simplified, easy to use gradebook that will be actually integrated with your Moodle course as well. You'll have the option of building or grading offline and inputting your grades, or of having it fully integrated where you are grading on Moodle and all of that is happening sort of in a nice seamless transition. The second hour, we'll see where we'll get to. Let's see how much we accomplish in the first hour, and that will let us know where the second hour will move to. If you are a skilled Moodle builder, or if you are very good with Gradebook and you've used it before, then this is probably not the retreat for you. Okay, it's going to be a very simplified walkthrough of how to use Gradebook in its most simplified, basic, but useful fashion. Okay, so that's what we're going to try and build today. So to do that, I'm going to pull up my screen and begin to build. And just a reminder, as always, resources can always be found on the Going Digital website. If you scroll down on the Going Digital website, what we will find is a section of what we'll call training videos, first and foremost. So today's video and all previous videos can be found here on the training videos. But if we scroll down even just a little bit further, we'll find Teaching with Moodle. And if we click on Teaching with Moodle, we'll get access to some resources. And in particular, what I'm going to talk about today, a lot of this information you'll be able to pull up right here, okay? Including how to set up a basic gradebook with step-by-step instructions and even some screenshots. So these documents already exist, and you can certainly go there for more help if you need as you're building. But let's actually start to build ourselves. So if I go to Moodle, what I'll find is moodle.yorku.ca. You'll notice that that is now, I guess, finished. We've moved off of that server, unless you're still teaching right now. So my summer courses, they all exist right here. These are my summer courses, or the courses that I've been building on and using this summer. These are the ones that are in progress. They're still here. But now we've actually moved to the new server. And so we're actually working with Moodle 3.9. And that's actually eclass.yorku.ca. So that's where I've come to right now. And when I come to eClass, my dashboard will be exactly the same as my Moodle dashboard. Say welcome to eClass. It'll show me my courses that I have here, and it will show me my future courses. So if you're looking for your courses for the fall, right, all the fall winter courses, all right, they are in eClass, eclass.yorku.ca, not moodle.yorku.ca. And you should have received some language now about this, both from the Associate Dean of Teaching and Learning, or the Dean's Office, from IT perhaps from your chair, your undergraduate program director. So hopefully this isn't completely new to you, but the Moodle will be kind of similar. We're still working with Moodle. It's just, it's gonna be a little bit different than the previous one. So let's go look. I've already created a playground, and that's right here. And I'm actually gonna build in my fake playground today, but you could always build the playground just by clicking on this button here that says Create Playground, and it will allow you to create a fake course that you can play in and build in, and that's what I've already done. And so here's my fake course. It starts in the same spot that they all do, a basic shell with really nothing in it. So we have a basic shell. It's in topic form, right? Topic 1, topic 2, topic 3. Okay, it's in a basic form, and it comes with a set of course announcements, and that's it. The rest we're going to build ourselves. And the way that we do that is by turning our editing on or off. And in the top right corner, you'll now see on the new Moodle 3.9, there's actually a button. It used to be a blue gear that would have you click on, or a blue flower in the top right corner. If you can't see that because my face is in the way, or because the faces of other people in the Zoom call are in the way, just click your mouse over the faces and drag and pull those faces out of the way. You can move them on your screen. And then what you'll see in the top right corner is actually a blue box that will allow us to turn our editing on or off directly. So let's just actually do that right now. I'm going to turn my editing off so you can see what happens. And then the blue box still remains now, but it says turn editing on. So I'm going to turn my editing on. So we want our editing on so that we're able to build things. So that's a great start and a great way to get us started. Having said that, now let's take a look at what we want to do here. I want to start by just maybe going into my gradebook itself and taking a look at what my empty gradebook looks like. If you already have a course and you already have stuff in it, you'll already have a gradebook, okay? And most of what I'm going to show you right now is all stuff that you can still do if you already have a gradebook that's been built by Moodle as you've been adding things into your course. You see, the thing with gradebook in Moodle is that every time we click add an activity or resource, we're going to get an option to add an activity or resource. Activities are things like forums and assignments and quizzes and etc. Turn it in or whatever it may be. And every time we pick something that's an activity and we add it to our course, Moodle automatically adds that to our gradebook. Okay, so I'm going to show you where we go to look at our gradebook. We're going to start to build a gradebook from 0 right now. But if you get there and you already have a bunch of things there, that's okay too. A lot of the steps that I'm going to show you will be just as valuable even after you've built stuff. But I'm going to start from ground zero and pretend as if I have nothing. And you can follow along with me as we go. All right, so I'll clear my drawings. And I'm going to begin by up in that right corner, right above the editing button, is that blue gear, that blue flower. That's where I'm going to start again today. Okay, except this time, instead of turning my editing on or off like I normally would, when I click on that blue flower, the third item down from the top is gradebook setup. Okay, so I'm not sure if you can see that or not, but gradebook setup. Okay, that's where we want to go to. We want to click on gradebook setup. Okay, so let's start and begin there. So I click on the blue gear, third down, gradebook setup. I click on the gradebook setup, and now I'm taken into the gradebook setup space. You might already have a whole bunch of stuff here. Your page might not be empty. My page is completely empty because I've built nothing yet in the course. If you have a bunch of things, don't worry about it. What you might want to do though is you might want to, I'm on the setup tab. You see I have the setup tab. This is where I'm working. You might want to just click on the view tab and have a look at what the gradebook itself looks like. That's always a good tab just to have a look at. If we click on the view tab, what it will show us is all the people who are in our course. Of course, my course has nobody in it, right? 0, right? But if you had students, they would be listed down here. And not only would their names be here and their email addresses, but all of the different items that are in your gradebook will also show up here all the way along. And even if you have it set up in such a way that the total grade the student has would be available right here. So you could view all of your participants at the same time, right? We have all and we have all, or you could begin to sort by first name or last name initial if you wanted to. So this is in the view section, okay? This is in the view section. And while I'm here in this view section, if I wanted to look, I could look at a single view, and that would allow me to look at maybe just one assignment or one task if I wanted to look at how the class was doing in that one task or that one assignment. And I can also generate reports if I want to see some little more detailed statistics. I'll leave that alone for later. That might just be something for you to consider, for you to play around with yourself once you have some students and some assignments. But that's always good to know that those are available to us. Okay, let's clear our drawings. And let's go back to our setup tab. Okay, we're going back to the setup tab, which is the second tab. I'm just going to show you where it is with my big arrow. There we go. We're going to go to the setup tab because that's where we want to begin by setting up our gradebook. Okay. The first thing I think we want to do is we want to make sure that we're totaling, having the gradebook give us a total of our marks in the most simplified form possible. So you would think that the most simplified way to get your grades would include the word simple in it, right? You would think that would be logical, except that it's actually not. So the first thing we want to do is we want to make sure that we change the way in which our course title, or sorry, our course total is put together. So the way in which the numbers are added up. Right now it's simple weighted mean of grades, and we actually want to adjust that, okay? Well, what we want to do is we want to make sure that Moodle adds up everything for us the way we set it up. So if an assignment's worth 5, we want it to be worth 5. If an assignment's worth 10, we want it to be worth 10. We don't want Moodle to do any additional math. We want Moodle just to add together our numbers for us the way they're supposed to be. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to adjust the course total. If your numbers aren't working, which often happens, usually the most common question we get or error problem that we have is that it's not set up properly, because the default for Moodle is that everyone gets simple weighted mean of grades. And we want to change that so it's just weighted mean of grades. We actually want to remove the simple to make it more simple, okay? All right, so let's go and do that, and I'll show you how to do that now. So this file folder here has the title of my course. Yours will have the title of your course, and that means it is the main file for the main gradebook. So everything we do in our gradebook is going to be inside of this file folder right here. So that means that if I want to adjust something in the settings, that's the edit that I have to go to. So I'm just following my line all the way over, and I'm going to come and I'm going to edit. I want to edit the file folder for my main course. Okay. So when I do that and I click on the edit button, it's going to ask me if I want to edit the settings or if I want to hide. And I'm going to select edit settings. So I click on edit settings. And now it's going to bring me into my setup. And what we see is that the aggregation, or the way in which the grades are totaled, is simple weighted mean of grades. And we want to adjust that, okay, to be just weighted mean of grades, no simple. So let's do that. We click, and right above is weighted mean of grades. And then I'm just gonna click Save Changes. I mean, there are other buttons there, and you can play with them if you like. Moodle Gradebook is just a lot like Microsoft Excel. So some of us, when we use Microsoft Excel, I mean, I can only use it to basically add a couple of different columns together. And then there are some people whose entire lives run through Microsoft Excel spreadsheets in very complicated and sophisticated ways. So Gradebook is much the same. We can use it in a very simplified form to do the couple small things that we want, or if you have skill with it and you're comfortable with it and you want to play around with it, I mean, there's a lot you can do here. But I'm here today just to show you the more basic version. So now we've got it set up the way we want, which is in weighted mean of grades. And the reason why this is going to matter in a moment when we start to build is because my course totals are all going to end up in one box here, because we want the course total to equal 100. But then inside of that, in my smaller categories, I might have things weighted just a little bit differently. This allows me, for example, to make a test. Let's say I want to make a test that is worth 20%. So it's an exam, let's say, and it's worth 20%, but I want it to be graded out of 100, right? So when I set up the test is going to be graded out of 100, but then when it goes into my grade book, I want Moodle to only weight it worth 20% of the final grade. All right, that's what we're setting up right now, is a type of grade book that allows us to have a maximum amount of grades for the assignment that is different than the weight that it holds in the actual class total itself. Okay, so to do that, we need to have a weighted mean of grades, and now we've done that. That's probably the most important task. Okay, so congratulations, the webinar is over. No, I'm just kidding. But really, I mean, that's probably the most important thing that I can teach you today, is that one step. Okay, now before we build anything else, what I find to be helpful is that I like to have a little bit of clarity inside my gradebook. Now, you might not want to. If you want to start right here and just have everything inside your gradebook exactly inside of just the one file, and you don't want any additional categories, that's great. You can pause here, go get a drink of water, a cup of coffee, come back in maybe 10 minutes, and then you can join back into how we're building out from here, okay? But what I like to do is I have a little bit of clarity. So I'm looking down at the syllabus that I'm working with for this fake course. And in this syllabus, I know that there are 2 exams. There's a midterm exam and there's a final exam. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to add a category. Okay, I'm going to add a category to my gradebook, and I'm going to call that category exams. Right, that makes sense. So let's do that. So I'm going to click on add category. And when it comes up, that category name, I already said we're going to call that exams. And I think I've already said we want to keep the grade just as a weighted mean of grades. So we don't want this, we want just the weighted mean of grades. And I'm just going to scroll down and click on Save Changes. Okay. And now I've got my exams. And now, so I have my main course file, and I've got one of my sub categories now, which is my exams. Now there's nothing in it yet. I haven't built anything yet, but when I do, I now have a place to put it, right? And so if I want, I can adjust what I want this to be weighted worth out of the entire course, and I can do that now if I want. You know, maybe I'll come back to it a little later and make other adjustments, or I can leave it as is, you know, and deal with that later. Okay, so I know that I have exams. And I know that I think I said I'm going to do that right now just to make sure that I keep myself honest, so I know what I'm doing later on. And they are worth, it's worth 35. Okay. So now the next thing that I want to do is I'm going to add another category here because I have to save my changes. Right, I have to save my changes or else it won't stay. Okay. So I'll save my changes. I also know that in this class I have essays, and the essays are worth 25%. So I click on add category and I just repeat the process. Now I'm going to put in my essays and I want to adjust it to its weighted, and I click save. Okay, and so now I've got exams and I have essays. My essays are worth 25. I click save changes. Perfect. Okay. And now I know in this class I have projects. Okay, so CPTs, cumulative performance tasks or group work. Okay, so I'm going to call those projects. I don't know, you might have group-based learning, practicum, whatever you have. That's okay. It's your course. I'm just showing you some different things. Click on save changes, and I'm back to the same idea here. That's also worth 25. So then I'm going to save my changes. And so now I'm starting to see my grade book is starting to look, a little bit like like how we want it to look. And the last thing then I know that I need is, I still have participation in this. So I add another category. I add participation and weighted mean of grades. And I'm still making my way all the way down. Participation in this class is worth 5%. Save changes. And then the last thing in this class is quizzes. So I'm going to add a category and I'm going to add quizzes. Weighted mean, save changes, and quizzes are worth 10%. Okay, this is a fake course. I'm not actually teaching this course. These aren't actually the way in which I'm grading my students. I'm just providing you with some options. Okay, ready to go. And now what we see inside my grade book, this is the main grade book. And then underneath it, I have a series of smaller subcategories for where my different activities that I'm going to build in Moodle will go. If you already have in your grade book a series of activities that are already there, we can make some changes to them to put them into these different categories. You can build the categories afterwards and we can move them into the categories, okay? Or you can have no categories at all. You don't need these subcategories. These are not a requirement. They're not a requirement. And it's not necessary in order to create a grade book that works and that is simple and that is easy. Okay, as long as you have this one main folder in place like we already did, and as long as once you set up your course grade book, the course total, right? See, the course total is your weighted mean of grades. That's actually all you're going to need in order to build your grade book. Okay, so we've built the basic structure of my grade book now. What we're going to want to do next is we're going to want to populate that. Okay, we're going to want to now go on to Moodle, and we're going to want to go back to the course and build these tasks or assignments and have them show up inside of our grade book. Now, if I wanted to, let's say my students aren't submitting their work on Moodle. Okay, maybe you're having them email you all their assignments. It seems complicated, but maybe that's the works best for you, and that's okay. Or maybe they're doing a series of tasks that aren't happening on Moodle. So we're not building something on Moodle to put the grades into that will then take the grades from Moodle and put them directly into the grade book. How does that work? Well, we're just going to add it. We can just add a grade item at any point in time to Moodle itself. And then we can place it in the spot where we want it to go. So let's just do that for fun. I'm not going to keep it, but I'll just show you. You click add a grade item. This grade item we will call, let's say this is class participation. Okay, and then what we want to do is we just want to scroll down a little bit. Okay, we want to make sure that we have grade set at value, whatever the maximum grade is. So maybe the class participation in this class is the maximum grade that they can get is 10. The grade that they need to pass is 5. I always recommend, as we're building things into gradebook, that when it asks for the grade to pass, that you fill this in. The reason why is because later when we come back to look at our grade book and we view it, remember how we clicked on the view tab and we're looking at what all our students are doing in an assignment or in a course. If you've activated the grade to pass and you've put that number in, any student who's below that grade to pass, their number in your grade book on Moodle will be a red color text instead of a black color text. So it will be immediately visible to you as the instructor just by panning across your entire course if the student themselves, or which students are struggling in terms of not actually passing, okay? Anyways, we're gonna keep scrolling down here, and we have all of our pieces here. You could adjust this if you wanted the decimal points, if you want it hidden or locked. I'm gonna recommend against hiding your grades in your grade book, but that's an option for you in terms of when they're available for students to see. You can make them hidden until a certain date, in which case they become available for students to view. And that would just be by activating and then the hidden, and then adjusting the date that you want it hidden until, okay? But I'm gonna scroll on down, and then for grade category here, I just have to put the category that I want this to fall under. And so mostly what we'll find when we're building activities is it'll just say uncategorized. And that's probably what it said if you're already using a course that you've been building already, when you built that assignment, when you built that test, when you built those forums, whatever it was, under the grade option, it said that there wasn't one basically for you to put it into. But now we've built some categories, so we have some options. And so I'm gonna click on the box, and what I can see is I have options of where I wanna put this, because I built these categories. I just built them: exams, essays, projects, participation, quizzes. I know that I want this to go into participation. I click participation, I click save changes. And now when I come back here, what I'm going to see is inside of participation now, I have my subcategory, my activity that I just put in there, which is class participation. Here's the category that we built. Remember, we said it's worth 5 in the course. Here's the class participation. I'm going to grade it out of 10, which we just saw, but actually it's only worth 2.5% of the entire course grade. So I'm going to put that number right in here. So I come over and I put in here 2.5%, and I scroll on down, right? And I see see the total mark. The total mark is right here. I made it out of 10. But so I don't have to grade it and do the math to figure out what that means and how it all works. I just mark it out of 10. And I put that number into Moodle, and then Moodle knows that that number out of 10 is actually worth 2% of the final grade. And that 2.5% is actually counts towards the 5% of participation, which comes back to out of being out of the 100. We don't have to do the math. Moodle will do it for us. We just keep it nice and simple. So I have to save that to make sure I keep my changes. I save my changes, and now I'm good. I'm good to go here. So let's say I want to just do one more piece, because maybe there's one more part to my participation that's getting graded and it's not being graded on Moodle itself. I'll do the same thing. I'll add a grade item, and then this time, instead of being like class participation, this might be attendance, right? A lot of us take attendance, maybe even on Zoom. If there's a synchronous component, we're taking attendance. And I'll just do the exact same thing as before. I scroll on down. What's the attendance? What's the maximum grade for attendance? Well, maybe you're going to have 20 Zoom sessions. Maybe there's 24 of them or whatever, or students have to come to 20, or maybe you have 22 if it's a full year course. Whatever I'm just going to say whatever the total number of weeks are. So I've got 22 of those, which means the grade that a student needs to pass is they would need to come to 11, right? Because that's half of the number. I scroll on down. I click on my show more for the parent category, and I'm going to, again, adjust the category. I'm still dealing with, I know my participation grade. So I select participation, and I click on save changes. And now I come back to look at my grade book, and here we go. Beautiful. Here's my class participation, and here's my attendance. And they're both indented, right? They're both indented, so I know that they're underneath this particular category, which is participation. That's worth 5% of the total grade in the course. So I just need to adjust this to be worth its component. So in my class, participation is 2.5%, attendance is 2.5%, right? You get half for showing up, and then half for the things that you say and you do when you're there. Again, these are just sort of more simplified basic ideas. And again, I know that participation, I'm just grading out of 10. And I know that attendance, I'm just giving them 1 check mark for every week that they come. And that's going to be out of 22 because there's 22 classes. And then Moodle is going to do the work for me to put it into this particular number. So I don't have to do that, which is great. And then of course, these two numbers together, you have to make sure that whatever you have under your file in any of our categories, the numbers together have to equal the number that you've allotted. If they don't, it doesn't work, right? Because at the end of the day, behind this, it's just a spreadsheet. It's just, right? So the numbers have to, they actually have to add up. All of your subcategories, if we're going to do weighted mean of grades, which we're doing, so all of our subcategories, the main category is the course name. The subcategories are essays, projects, participation, quizzes, right? All of these together, they have to equal the course total of 100 or it doesn't work. So I have to make sure that my essays plus my projects plus my participation plus my quizzes, they all equal 100. And then inside each of my categories, like participation, if I've allotted them to 5% of the total grade, I have to make sure that that these numbers together, they equal that 5%, which they do. So here we go. So we're good. I'm going to scroll down. I'm going to click on Save Changes. And now I have my gradebook so far starting to come together. It looks clean. It's sort of organized in a nice, presentable fashion. Your students will see this as well. They'll be able to see, you know, what you input into it, but they'll also be able to get a sense of how they're being graded, and it'll be visible to them also at the end of the year in a very clear fashion, which is nice. And this, when you have a nice subdivided gradebook as well, we can export that into a Microsoft Excel document. And I'll show you how to do that before we're done today, that we can give to our department. And that's also very nice in case there are any student requests for grade reappraisal, or if your department or school require a spreadsheet, a Microsoft Excel document with a breakdown of grades. This is a really sort of nice and clear way as to how that all looks, nice and easy to follow. Okay, so now we have our basic gradebook in place using our weighted mean of grades. We've changed to the weighted mean of grades for the main course. Then we built some smaller categories based on the types of things that we would give to our students. If you want to know where to get the ideas for these categories, look at your syllabus. When you give your students your syllabus, you always tell them how their grade is being broken down. This much from quizzes, this much from journals, this much from participation, so you can just create those categories right here. And then any of the things I'm not going to build on Moodle, I'm going to then add a grade item, and I'm just going to create it and place it directly into there, okay? So now that I've done that, I'm going to go back to my main page of my Moodle, or sorry, of my course. So here's my course. I'm going to go back to the main page of my course. And now I'm going to start to build some of those activities so I can populate the grade book itself. So the first thing I know is I have, and I'm just going to put, in your Moodle course, you'll do this different. It will look much nicer than what I'm going to build right now. It'll be much more sophisticated, and I totally understand that. But let's just pretend to keep things simple, that each of my topics was actually the types of things that I was building. Or let's just do it all for one. Let's just say, we'll call this topic grades and assignments. Believe it or not, students quite like when there's a topic that's called grades and assignments, and when it's right near the top of the Moodle page. So it's one of the first things they see, because that tends to be one of the most important things to students. And so if that's immediately available to them and they can see it and they can find it nice and early in the course and they can keep coming back to it, they tend to enjoy that. So there is a value, excuse me, to placing the assignments as you build them inside your syllabus like you would, or inside your Moodle like you would on a week-to-week basis. So if in week 2 they have a test, you build the test in week 2. Absolutely, that makes sense. If the essay is due in module 4, and this is your topic 4 is your module 4, you add the turn it in activity into topic 4. Makes sense. Absolutely. I'm not debating that in any way. But it's also nice, if you can, to consider maybe having one spot where it's all collected together as well for students. It's just a different way to do it, to categorize or to organize knowledge, and to make it accessible to students in a different fashion. When I build, I actually do both. I build a section called grades and assignments, just like this. I just change a topic by clicking on the pen. I type in what I want to be called. So I call this one grades and assignments. And then I have to hit enter. If you don't hit enter and you just click the button, it goes back to saying topic. But when you change it, you type in the letters you want and you hit enter, and now changes the title of your topic. So my topic now is called grades and assignments. And I build them all in here into the one spot. After I built them all, I can show you this again later today. time permitted, is every time I build an assignment, it gives me a link inside of Moodle where that assignment now lives or exists. So if they're to submit an essay, there's now a Dropbox for them to submit, an electronic Dropbox for them to submit that on Moodle. And when I create the assignment or the Turnitin assignment, it's going to give me a link. So I'm actually going to build everything into the one spot called grades and assignments and keep it near the top of my course so students can find it very easily. But then I'm also going to get the links for those drop boxes, for the test room, for the journal entry, for the forum, and I'm going to paste those links where they belong in the different weeks or the different topics or the different modules where the students will encounter them in a linear fashion. So that way my students can find the assignments and they can find the tasks in two different spaces, depending on how they think, because everyone thinks a little bit different, right? Yeah, I got a thumbs up. Thank you for the thumbs up. Yeah, because I mean, sometimes what we think is the way that we would organize knowledge isn't the way our students do, and there's multiple ways to do it. And there is nothing more frustrating than being unable to find the assignment that you're supposed to be working on, or coming across it later on in a different spot. And whoever built it had a logical reason for why they put it there, but if we can put it in more than one spot, we're actually going to make it more accessible to our students. Okay, that was a little bit of a blurb, but I hopefully that's a helpful one to you as you're building. So I have to make sure my editing is on. And again, if I just scroll up, I've got that nice big blue button. Thank you, Moodle 3.9. That says turn editing on or turn editing off. Mine is on, so I'm good to go. And so I'm going to now, in my grades and assignments, I'm going to click on add an activity or resource, and we are going to start to build. And now if you haven't been to the new Moodle yet, you're going to see something a little bit different. Okay, when you click on here, this is what's going to come up. A giant Dropbox that has everything on it. It has all the activities, okay? And it has all of the resources. On the old Moodle 3.7 that we've been working on for, or in previous versions of it, on moodle.yorku.ca, all of this also appeared, but it appeared in a list form, okay, with these icons being very small next to the list and a spot for you to check a box. In the new version now, it's a little bit more like our iPhone. I think that's what Moodle's going for here, a little bit more of an iPhone look, so the icons are a little bit larger. And what I'm going to ask you to do the first time you come here is to say, okay, what are the things that I'm using most in building my Moodle? And whatever those are, there's a star. And I'm going to tell you, click on the star. And that's what I've done. Okay, so I've gone through and I've said, you know what, I use assignment a lot. I'm going to click on that. I use book a fair bit. I'm going to click on that. I know that I'm going to be building a lot of Zooms, so I click on, put the star there. And you'll notice that there are two Turnitins. Ignore the first one, okay? That's an older model. We're gonna work with Turnitin 2. So Turnitin 2, so I put a star on that one. Maybe I'm also gonna use quizzes a fair bit. I think today I will. So I'm gonna scroll back down. What just happened there? Let's try that again. I actually clicked on the button itself. My apologies. Come back here again. And where did quizzes go? There we are. Now I've added a star to it. Thank you. So everything that I've added a star to, there's a category at the top now. It's called starred. And the nice thing is, going forward, whenever I actually click on add an activity or resource, I'm going to see the starred list first. So I don't have to be overwhelmed by all the different pieces that I see in front of me. So I'll show you how that looks, right? I close this down. I'm going to click add an activity or resource. Perfect. And the starred ones, the ones that I've starred, they come up first. So I don't have to worry about that big list. The ones I'm going to use the most, I'm going to find them nice and easy because they're right here waiting for me. But let's say I don't find the one I want. Okay. What I know when I click on add an activity or resource is that activities are things that are going to populate my gradebook. So whenever I build anything that's going to end up in my gradebook, it's going to be an activity. And resources are more about building the Moodle site itself. So pages and maybe links, tabs, these types of features, labels. Okay, we'll find those under resources. And I'll show you what I mean. We'll just click on them both right now so you can see both. If I click on resources, book, file, folder, label, page, URL, which will allow us maybe to link to our Zoom recording and embed that for our students. You can see earlier retreat videos on how to do that. a tab display to organize things, to keep things neat on the page. This is really about, you know, organization of your Moodle page and sort of collecting your all of your data and all of your activities and making it, you know, presentable and nice to your students. But today we're working with activities, because we're going to be populating our Moodle site with different tasks that are then going to populate our gradebook. And let's begin then with our exams, right? So we're going to have a midterm exam, which is worth 15% in this course, and a final exam, which is worth 20. So tests and exams are the same thing in Moodle. They all fall under quiz. Okay, so I'm just going to click on quiz because that's what I'm going to build. And when I go to build my quiz, I'm going to call it what it is. This is the midterm exam. Okay. And I'm going to scroll down. Now, I'm not going to build the whole quiz itself and all of those components. If you go to the Going Digital website, right over here, let me just pull you back one. In the Going Digital website, and you go into training videos, you'll notice that 2 weeks back, there was creating quizzes and tests in Moodle. And so I take you through step by step through 2 parts, how to actually set it up, how to build the questions and add additional features. So you can go through there to see that. Instead today, I just want to show you the grading component. So midterm exam, blah, 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 blah. Timing, I'm not too worried about grade. This is the part that is going to matter to us because we're building our grade book. Okay, all these other categories are important. And again, you can watch the video to see how to do that. Now, if you've already built your quiz or your test or your exam, that's okay. When you go to edit the settings of that test or quiz or exam, the grade option is still there. Okay, so let me show you what happens when we click here. When we click on grade, here we go. The first thing we get to do is we get to now pick the category we want it to go into. If you built your test or your exam or your quiz already in the past, the category will be uncategorized because you probably didn't have any categories in your gradebook. But we've just built them, so we know that they're there. So we're going to click on that and take a look. There's my exams. There's the category that I've already built. I just click on that, and now I know it's going to go right into my grade book. It's going to go right into the exam section, and Moodle's going to help me do the math. I know that that I'm going to make this one out of 100 because I like all my exams to be graded out of 100, which means the grade to pass is going to be 50. But I mean, you decide what you want. And then the rest of the stuff I'm not going to express today, although I'll turn off unlimited. So they only get 1 attempt because it's an exam. And again, you can see all of these other options in the earlier retreat video that I did. Most of them are the same from 3.7, the old Moodle to the new Moodle, except for maybe this one here, the Safe Exam Browser, which is a new addition to creating tests and exams in Moodle. But I know that the Associate Dean of Teaching and Learning is asking people to refrain from using this until we can collect a little more data on the usage of it to ensure that student privacy is not being violated. I mean, it's there and it's open for you to use. What it does is when you click on it, just so you know, prevents students from opening another window and working on another window on their computer while they're in your quiz. So if they're in Moodle and they're in your quiz, the Safe Exam Browser prevents them from opening another window to work in maybe Google or something else to try and find the answers elsewhere on their computer. But there's an issue about the software component to it, and that we're just working on sorting out. Just a reminder, though, that the Safe Exam Browser doesn't prevent students from having a phone. Well, you can't see my phone. A phone, which they can look things up on, or a second screen in front of them, or another person beside them helping them answer the questions. Okay, so I mean, it's a tool and it's there, but it's not a savior. Okay. We're going to move past that though, because that's not what I'm here to do today. I'm going to click save and return to course. And now I have my midterm exam. And I just want to go, now I'm going to come on over and I'm going to go up to the top right corner to that blue gear, that blue flower. And I'm going to go back to my gradebook setup, just like we did at the very start when we began at the beginning. I'm going to go to the blue flower and I'm going to, for the drop-down options, I'm going to click on gradebook setup. And as I do that, there it is. I'm going to scroll down and take a look, and beautiful. So here we go. So I have under my subcategory of exams, I can see my midterm exam is showing up. There's the red link, which means it's live and ready to go. I know that it's being graded out of 100, and now I just have to pick what it's worth in the actual course itself. So I get that from my syllabus. And like I said, I think I said 15%, right? So let's go and make that adjustment. So I click on here and I type in 15 because it's 15%. And I scroll on down and click Save Changes. All right. And so now I've got my midterm exam and my midterm exam is done. And now I'm just going to repeat this exact same process for the other exam that I have, the final exam. So I'll just do this in a more quick fashion now. I go back to my course and I click on Add an Activity or Resource. And I'm going to click on, oh, look, it's starred. So it's right on the front page. I don't have to search for it. That's nice. I click on Quiz. This quiz I'm calling my final exam. Now, of course, when you make your final exam, you will also click on timing and make sure that you set up the date so that your final exam isn't open on the first day of school, which it would be right now because I don't have any timing put on it. Okay, so you will make sure you adjust that. I'm just going to adjust the grade because that's the part we're working on. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to make sure that I adjust the category, right? That's what I want to look at is the category. So I'm going to change this to go into my exams. And I'm going to put the grade to pass because I like to have that there, especially on big projects. I like to have all my tests out of 100. So the grade to pass is 50. I scroll on down and click Save and Return to Course. Again, you might do things different. That's completely fine. That's okay. But here we go. Look at that. Beautiful. Midterm exam, final exam, easy for the students to find. I mean, when it comes time to actually do this for my students, what I would probably do is I would click on Edit, and then I would click on Edit Settings. And now once I'm back into the settings, okay, if you've already built your tests, that's how you'll get here to then adjust the grade, and you can make sure that it's in exams instead of uncategorized. So if you've already built your test, if you've already built your test, if you've already built your quiz, if you've already built your assignment, all you have to do is turn your editing on, click on Edit Settings, and then you just kind of scroll your way down to grade, and you can adjust. It will say uncategorized. You change it to whatever category you've just built. But the reason why I would come in here for my students is I would actually, in the description, I would now put in when it happens, some simple rules for them. I would give them some more detail about it. I would put that in the description. I would click Save Description or Display Description on page, and I would return once my course is actually live. Because I think that's helpful for them to see it, but to also know when it happens and the rules itself. So I built now my midterm and my final. I'm just going to come up to the top right corner. I'm going to go back to my gradebook one more time. So I click on that blue gear. And when I click on the blue gear, I'm going to select gradebook setup one more time. And in doing so, I come back here. Oh, clear my drawings. Pardon me. Thank you. And I scroll down and I see that my midterm is good. It's out of 100. My final's out of 100, but I just have to make sure I have the right amount so that the math adds up. So even without looking at my sheet, I can do the simple math. This is about the extent of my math abilities, but I'm able to do this. Since my exams are worth 35 in total, and I know that 15 is already done, this by default is going to be 20 because these two numbers have to add up to this number. So my final exam is worth 20%. So I'm just going to make that adjustment. Again, keep it simple, scroll down, save changes. And now my gradebook's really starting to come together. I have my two exams. They're worth 35%. I built them into Moodle, at least the shell itself. I'm gonna have to go back now and populate it by creating all the questions. And again, if you wanna know how to do that, come to the training videos. You can see how to build questions, okay? I'll show you how to build them and the way to do that. That's always there for us. But I have them on my page and they're there and they're ready to go. And I also have it built into my gradebook, which is nice because it means that if I actually go and mark them on Moodle, which I can, if I have multiple choice, Moodle will mark it automatically for me. If I have essay questions, I can just go in and mark it afterwards on Moodle. And if I just do that by putting the marks into Moodle, even by using a rubric, which would be even better, either way, using a rubric or not using a rubric, if I mark them on Moodle, Moodle will put the grades directly into the gradebook. It will convert them. So students will see their number out of 100 because that's what it's graded out of. And then it will convert it into the gradebook and it will put it at the proper weighted amount out of 15 or out of 20. So I don't have to do any of that. Okay, that's really quite nice for us. Okay, so now I'm just going to find my way back to my course. And I'll show you one more thing. We're getting, there's still time. There's still time to do a few more things before the end of the first hour. And so if you'll remember, if I click on actually, no, we'll keep building first. Let's do the next part, essay 1 and essay 2. I have 2 essays now for this course. So I'm going to, again, now I'm going to add those here. I'm going to click and add an activity or resource. Okay, we'll start there, add an activity or resource, and I'm going to add an assignment. So the first essay is not going to be a Turnitin assignment. It's just a straight essay the student's going to do. And I click on assignment, and this will be essay 1. Okay, and I scroll on down. And again, I would put a description here for the students of what it's all about, when it's due, how it's due, all that if I wanted to. If I had a file to upload about the assignment, I might upload it for the students to see. Availability, submission types, all this stuff. If you want to know how to do this, we come back to that Going Digital website and we scroll back 3 weeks. August 4th, I did a whole session on creating assignments and using Turnitin. And I walk you through step by step all of these options, what they all do, how they all work. So I won't spend time going through each one of these things today, but they all exist. And there's a video for you to watch if you want more detail on how to do that. Instead, all I want from my fake assignment is the grade. So I'm scrolling down to where we get to grade, and we're just going to make those same adjustments. I'm going to have it graded by point. I'm going to have it graded out of 100. I love to have my essays graded out of 100. It's quite nice. And then what I need to adjust here, though, is I'm going to adjust the category. Again, right now it's uncategorized. If you've already built yours, yours will say uncategorized. But once we build those categories in the gradebook, we want to make that adjustment. So this is going to fall under essays. I select essays. I know that it's out of 100, so the grade to pass is 50. All wonderful stuff. Now, I like to mark with rubrics, so I'm actually going to make that adjustment right now because I don't do simple direct grading anymore. Simple direct grading is just that. You just grade it, right? Simple, direct. You put a number in for it, maybe some comments for your students. Okay, excellent. I'll talk maybe more about this in the second hour if there's time, but I'm going to make that adjustment from simple direct, and I'm going to make a rubric. So I just click rubric, and then it's going to give me the opportunity to add the rubric a little bit later on, and I will do that, and I will use the rubric. Nice thing about the rubric is I check boxes. The boxes add up to numbers. Those numbers, Moodle adds up for me. Then Moodle takes those numbers, puts them out of 100, gives it back to the students. The students can read the rubric to see how they got the numbers. So they get the comments there as well. It streamlines the grading so everyone's getting graded under the same, with some real consistency. It lowers the workload in terms of time required to grade essays significantly after you've built a rubric and begun to use it and become comfortable with it. And then of course, Moodle does all the math the whole way down. Okay, but what I've done here is I've adjusted the category. I've adjusted the grade to pass. Those are the things you need for the grade book, although I would recommend a rubric. Okay, then I'm going to scroll down to the bottom, click save and return to course. And now here we go. I've got my midterm, I've got my final, I've got my first essay, and I'm just going to come now back up, go back to my grade book, same thing, turn that gear, right? Click that gear, go back to gradebook setup, and now I'm back in my gradebook setup, and I'm going to scroll down, and there it is, essay 1. It's live in my gradebook. I can see that it's being graded out of 100. I like to grade out of 100, as you'll notice. Everything so far has been graded out of 100. You know, I like to keep it simple. If I just have to make the adjustment here. So the first essay in my course is worth 10%. So I'm going to clear that error. I'm going to put that to 10%, and I'm going to save it. Okay, and now my grade book is really coming along. So I want to now go put my second essay in. Now this one will make a Turnitin essay, but it's largely the same process again. I'm back on my main course. My editing is on. I'm going to add an activity or resource. I've starred this one already, so I know that I like it, and it's there for me. I don't have to search for it. Turnitin 2 is the one that we've been using in Moodle. So I click on Turnitin 2, and now it's going to ask me to set it up. And so this will be essay 2. Okay, and I would put the info for my students that they would need. Okay, all of these boxes, how they all work, what you need to check off how you want it all to work. If you go to that Going Digital website, if you go look at the video, I walk through all of the choices. So I'm not going to worry about that today. Today, instead, what I'm interested in is just making sure that in the grade section that I get it in the category I want in my grade book, because today we're doing grade book work. So I click on grade. All right, I have my grade category, I move it to essays. The grade to pass is going to be 50. And then I'm just going to scroll right down and click save and return to course. There are many more functions, especially for Turnitin, but again, I will leave that for another day. And you'll notice here that there's a difference in icon on your page. That means it's a Turnitin essay, and that means it's just a non-Turnitin essay, just a regular Dropbox. Okay. So now I have my essays set up and my exam set up. Just to confirm though, I'm going to go back to my gradebook. So click on the gear, click on gradebook setup. We've done this a few times now, and we scroll down, and what we notice is essay 2 is here. It's modded out of 100, but now I just have to adjust what its total grade in the class is. And in this class, the total grade is 15. Now I want to show you something that hopefully you've noticed. Let me just click on save. But that is when I have something that repeats. So in this class here, I have a midterm, and then I have a final. In this class here, I have a first essay, and then I have a second essay. I want you to notice that the first time I ask my students to do something, the grade is lower than the second time I ask them to do it. Okay, so if you, in previous times, let's say you did 20 for the midterm, 20 for the final, or 3 essays, 20% each, or whatever it is, that's fine, okay? I mean, there's nothing wrong with that type of pedagogy. But what I'm going to suggest is the first time you ask the students to do a task, lower the stakes. Okay, because part of what they're doing is learning how to complete the task. So whereas if it was a traditional classroom, maybe they're just writing an essay and they're submitting the first essay to you. But now they have to write an essay, they have to navigate Moodle, they have to figure out Turnitin to drop it in, or there's an additional set of characteristics to it, especially if they're writing a test. They have to not only learn how to write the test from a technical standpoint, they also have to study for the test and the material itself. Lower the stakes a little bit the first time you ask them to do it. So that way they can, if they fail, okay, in terms of not meeting the expectation because of maybe technical difficulties or a lack of technical understanding of the Moodle, they're not losing out on the course. There's still an opportunity for them to remain in the course and come back from that. Okay, so that's a really important thing to think about. And even for often if I run an exam or I run a test, I'll actually create a fake quiz with like 5 questions on it. And it'll be like, what color is my hair? And like, whatever. What color are my glasses? What color is my shirt? Etc. And those will be the questions. And the students will just have to go in and do that fake quiz in order to write the exam. So that way they can just practice the week before how to log into the test room, how to answer a multiple choice question, what happens when they click on a button. So that way they have that experience before I'm asking them to do it and then evaluating them for 20% of their grade, let's say. So that sort of low stakes or no stakes attempt at an assignment or task or test is very valuable in the online learning environment, okay? But also pedagogically, even if we're not in the online learning environment, allowing students to scale their learning is valuable. So that way they write an essay, you give them feedback, then they can use that feedback plus a better understanding of course knowledge, okay, in both breadth and depth, because now we're further along in the course for that second essay. Okay, and so the second essay should be worth more than the first essay because they know more in the course. They're more engaged in the course material. They're better subject matter experts now because they've been around longer in this particular, whatever course it is that you're teaching. Okay, and now they're more familiar with you and the marking environment and the students that they're learning with and working with, and they've received feedback from you and had the opportunity to better themselves by using that feedback. So if we want them to use the feedback we give them, where's the carrot? What's the encouragement to do so? And I think if we start small and build our way up and we scale our grading, that's actually going to allow our students a chance to succeed more. And also the multiple low stakes testing environment where there's multiple ways to earn your grade and that goes up. And right, so as we go through the course, gives them an opportunity to test themselves, to test out, to be creative, to experiment, to push themselves, and to not be their best. And that's okay, because there's a next opportunity coming down the road to improve on that by getting the feedback and by continuing to grow and to learn. So I just want to put that out there as something to think about as we continue to build our grade books. And we're thinking about the types of testing we want to do, or evaluation or assessment, and how we want to build it in. If you have multiple things in any of your categories, consider scaling it. Now, at the same time, we know that faculty guidelines and Senate guidelines require that no more than 20% can be assigned to anything, I think, in the final 2 weeks of a course. So keep that in mind. And also try not to have multiple things due all at the same time, right? Or all right at the very last week of the term. And if you've ever been a student at York University, you will know that there are 1 or 2 points in the term where everything seems to come due at the exact same time from all of your professors. And so those pressure and guidelines will be on your students as well. So online gives us a bit of an opportunity to have some flexibility in terms of dates and due dates and when we want to have things turned in and how we want to work. We don't have to work with the calendar in necessarily the same traditional fashion because we're not meeting in the same traditional fashion that we were before. Just some things to consider as you build and to think about. But I'm going to stop the first hour right here. We've started the process of building our basic grade book. We changed it to a weighted mean of grades from a simple weighted mean of grades. We then set up some categories, in this case, exams and essays, etc., participation. We added to those categories individual items where, I'm just going to show you here what we did. We added some individual items, individual grade item, in this case, class participation and attendance, things that we weren't going to populate in Moodle, but we're going to mark anyways, and we want to assign a grade to it. And over and above that, then we began to build our exams and our essays using assignment or quiz or Turnitin and what that looks like in the grade book. So we're moving along really well right here. And I even showed you how to adjust the category to move your already existing assignments in. So if you already have an assignment, if you already have a test, you can still go and edit that and you can put it into the categories after you've built them. So we're going to stop right here right now at the end of the first hour. We're going to take about maybe a 4 or 5 minute break. If anyone needs to stretch, turn off your cameras, your mics are already off. We'll come back at about 3 or 4 minutes after 12, maybe 5 minutes after 12, and we'll go through the second hour. We'll finish building out the rest of this grade book, and I'll show you a few additional sort of helpful tips in building your course. Thanks.